Parent of the groom. Traditionally, the father of the groom speaks after the father of the bride, before the bride and groom speak, so you'll get to have some fun at your son's expense before he gets to respond. You might be introduced by the best man, who may be acting as the MC, or you might have the father of the bride introduce you. Essentially, your role here is to be light-hearted and poke some gentle fun at your son while complimenting your new daughter-in-law. You will probably want to thank some people for coming to the wedding, but the personal thank yous to individuals will typically be done by the bride and groom later themselves. Your introduction. Unless you're having a very small and intimate wedding, you may not be known to everybody, and many of the relatives from the other family and guest partners won't know who you are, so you'll have to introduce yourself as the parent of the groom. You'll also want to thank everyone again for coming and hope they're having a good time. The groom. Obviously, the main part of your speech should be about your son, but we're not looking for a recount of his life story. While it's perfectly acceptable and expected for you to be nostalgic at this point, the guests don't want to hear about every achievement from toilet training to present day, detailed in chronological order. Try to pick out stories that highlight his personality, his sense of humor, or difficult times he's overcome to become the man he is today. Recalling personal memories of times that you spent together before you knew the bride or since are what the guests are really looking for here. These are usually some situations he got himself into as a younger man and had to learn from, with a tinge of embarrassment. We're not looking to destroy his character here, just to make him feel a little uneasy knowing that you have a lot of embarrassing stories from his childhood in your arsenal. If you have any personal stories about what happened in the background during the early stages of the courtship, if it's a trip that was planned or something that happened that you didn't know about until later, this can be a funny insight into how you knew that these two were meant for each other. The tone of your speech is very important, as it needs to be a mix of parental pride for your son's accomplishments and some funny stories thrown in to keep the mood light. There's a full video later on how to start structuring your speech and how to brainstorm ideas. The best way to end your speech is with a final anecdote and a desire to see the couple build a happy and loving future together. Remember, you really want to keep your speech to 5 minutes or less. It might be tough to cut some of the anecdotes and stories from people in the wedding party, but if there are a few speeches, the guests will thank you for keeping it brief. You can always tell people that you have a few other stories that you had to cut from the speech to save your son's public humiliation, but you're more than happy to tell stories one-on-one after the dinner.